All right. I think I'm online, right? Everybody hear me okay? I've got a 15-second delay, so anybody don't get upset if I don't answer right away. It was in tune a second ago. All right. Hello from New Zealand. Awesome. It's like tomorrow there, isn't it? For us. Get some people first. All right. Sorry, guys. I'll play a little bit. Nope, that's not the one I want. There we go. There we go. I'm an A. All right. So, I'm completely out of tune again. All right, so I just want to talk about a few things. I got some people watching. And this is kind of talking about my blues bend course. And that's why I was doing all sorts of bends there. So the first thing is hand position. I think bends are kind of everything to me, because bends, vibrato, all kind of goes together. Let's turn my vocals down just a little bit. Okay, so bends and vibrato all kind of go together, and because it's like it'll send some levels. You can never know until you're actually online when some little levels are a little hot. There we go. All right. Vocal still good? I think that should be better. Not breaking up. All right. So the hand position is kind of everything. It comes down to really hand strength. So the first thing I just want to talk about is how you would put your hand, like where you're. There's a few ways to bend strings, and I think the main one that most guitar players I know do is have your thumb over the top of the neck, right? So I'm really digging in there, and I'm putting my third finger right up on the fret. I'm going to play this D note. So when I'm bending, I'm not bending with my fingers. Oh, I am, but I'm not using my fingers to push the string. I'm using my whole forearm, my whole wrist, right? So I can really kind of dig in. You can't see that, but like there. So that's all coming from my arm, kind of like I'm, turning a doorknob, as opposed to, or like a can, like taking the lid off of something, as opposed to bending with my fingers, which I did for many years, and I gave myself hand problems. So that could, be a part of that. Okay, so what you want to do is think about putting that third finger down. We'll use that finger right there. My thumb goes over the top of the neck, and everything's just kind of jammed right in there. And I don't bend with just my third finger. I reinforce my third finger with the other finger. So I'm bending with the third just as the note that's actually fretting the note closest to the pickup, but I actually have my second finger right behind it, so I get two fingers right there. My first finger kind of flattens out and mutes some of the notes. Right? So I'm bending into that note. So I have all this kind of hand strength behind it. Right? So I can really get some control over the pickup. I mean, over the bent note, I should say. Okay, so there we go. So when I do that on any other string, I really want to think about getting these hands in position like that, so I can really get all that strength behind it. Okay, I've got some bad. How's the video going? A little video bad streaming settings. It says. All right. Well, let me know if it starts to deteriorate. Jeff Sheets, you can text me. So I'm right from behind, right pushing up. And if I want to do that anywhere else, so I'm going to do this G to A, same thing. Okay, so it's really all coming from the hand right here, really supporting what I'm playing behind it. Right, so I really have, thanks guys, thanks for letting me know it's okay, good. So I really have that support behind it, so there's not this one finger thing, there's a lot of tension on a string, and it's just about control. So I'd recommend you do, as I talk about in the beginning of my Take 5 Blues Bends video, is you can think about that with each finger. So if I want to start with my third finger right here, right, and then I can do my second finger. I can do my first. That's obviously much more difficult with the first finger. So it's a little bit different technique because I can't reinforce that with the other hand. So with the first finger, I really kind of push right here. I'm really getting the corner of the fingerboard with the ball of my finger right there. So. And now I just practice one note to the next note. So whole step, I'm thinking A minor. So my whole step bend from D to E, I can just practice those two notes. Right? So I'm just going to listen to the two pitches. See? So I can just sit there and practice each one of those methodically, which is really, really what you want to do, because it's all about getting hand strength together, and muscle memory is a big part of it, knowing that if I want to do a pre-bend, close. That's why I have vibrato, to cover up those mistakes. So I take a track like this and I just practice whole step bends in A minor pentatonic. Whole step here. It's in here, it can the whole blues using basically 2 bends. Okay. So that's the first way I'd practice it. Just take something really simple like that and work through them. Take a simple bend like a whole step. Make sure it's in tune. And practice like that. And I do this all the time, and I find if I'm a little out of practice, which happens more than I like, I end up, those are the first things that kind of go. My the time goes a bit, you know, how smoothly I play. But sometimes the bends go, because it's a really fine motor skill you want to stay on top of when you're practicing. Okay, so the next technique, before we talk about other bends, is vibrato, which is going to be really, really huge. So any questions first on those bends? Is that what we're doing? All right. Like I said, I'm a little behind on the delay there. Okay, so the vibrato, it's the same technique as the bend. So I'm going to take this, the note, and I'm going to use the same idea where I'm pulling on the strings with my forearm, my wrist like this, as opposed to fingers again. So if I'm going to play that same note, that D, right, like that. Like that, right? So I see some questions popping up. I'll get to those in just a second. Let me answer those quick questions. Yes, those bends, vortex, yeah. So they were the 4 to the 5 and the 7 to the root. Yeah, absolutely. So the 4 to the 5, the D to the E, and then the G to the A, and the 4 to the 5 on top of there. So, flat 7 to the root. Okay. And yes, this track is on the blues course, the Take 5. This with Albert King, how do you imitate Albert King? Ooh, well, that's we can talk about that. I'll get back to that one. Okay, it's a good question. We can talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so the vibrato, it's the same exact technique as the bends, as I was saying. Right. So an unbent note, first of all. There's 2 kinds of vibrato. Well, there's a few kinds of vibrato I use. One is just like the bend. Right, so I'm locking those fingers and it's just kind of pulling on the string a little bit. The real trick, and I talk about this in the courses, so if you guys know my stuff, you've heard me say this stuff. Here's our note that we want to vibrato. So when I'm vibratoing, I bend above the pitch and bring it back down. And I need to, it's super, super important that the bend comes back down to the original pitch. So the string goes back to being totally slack. So it's kind of like you let the string pull you back into where it wants to be at its resting spot. And that'll also be in tune. And also when you look at the string, and if you can see if it's sharp or not, because if the string is bent, and you can hear it too. So I'm going to vibrato. There's my pitch. So I can hear that pitch. It's still main pitch is that. What I want to really, really avoid is this. See? I end up vibratoing that note, and it's very common. And if you even look, the string is bent. So you want to make sure that the string pulls back to its original starting point. Like that, right? Right, and really work on what I call my resting vibrato, which is not technically resting, but it's my go-to. Like that's probably mine. Right, so that would be the standard vibrato for me. I want to be able to vary it, and I practice doing fast vibrato and slow and wide, all these different things because they all say different things. So when you practice your vibrato, you want to practice it with intent. Like I'm practicing vibrato right now. I'm going to try every kind of vibrato I can possibly do. The cool thing is we have stuff like YouTube, so you can go on and see what Clapton's vibrato is, or Hendrix, or other people that you really like. And that's super important because the way the hand is for different people varies. Like Clapton, for instance, does a sort of free-floating vibrato that I use all the time too, and I got it from him. And that's where I don't anchor anywhere, or maybe just slightly here, but it's coming from my arm on an unbent note. So like this. So if you see here, I can get this angle right. So first finger on the, see my thumb is actually kind of floating around. And that's a very different sound. And when you get higher up, it's also a really cool sound up here. Say like, you know, you can get this kind of big vibrato, and I'm doing the hand like up and down like that. As opposed to with that's more that fixed vibrato, which I think sounds different. I can get a little wider with that. I also like that you can get that other string rub. Sounds kind of cool. But I practiced these all individually. You know what I mean? I don't, can't take anything for granted. So if you're like Clapton's playing, I would just investigate his vibrato. Not so you're trying to sound like Clapton or anything like that. I don't see the point to trying to sound like somebody else, but you can steal just even the physical idea of what they're doing, and watch the vibrato and see different things, and they affect your playing in different ways. So I'm gonna do a few different vibratos over the same track so we can hear these different kinds. I'm gonna start off with just a slow one, like my resting vibrato call, right? And rest on this of the wider. Right? I'm going to do slow to wide. Watch. No vibrato. Coming at the end. So I did a few different things there. The one I love is this thing. You can just kind of no vibrato, and you kind of slow and make it go wider. Right? Like a singer would do that with a lot of control. Like Aretha Franklin, someone has real control over their voice. And you want to have real control over your vibrato because it's the way you can get a really vocal quality to your playing. And for me, that's everything. You can have, what I look for when I hear a player is that they play in time and they play in tune, and do they have good vibrato. Without those things, I find it hard to listen to that guitar player. So if there's somebody who's just got a great vibe and killer vibrato and great time, I'd much rather hear that than somebody who plays a lot of notes. So this sort of that note goes into harmonic, pretty cool. So there, no vibrato, and just some at the end. So it's pretty cool the way you can really, like I said, treat it like a singer. Next, the other thing too is this sort of circular vibrato. I know Steve Vai, I think, was the first guy I see do it. Well, classical guitar players do it because they don't really bend the strings. They do this sort of circular one. And I've seen Steve Vai talk about it. And it's pretty cool. So it's really subtle. Right? Right, like that. So it's really, really subtle and really pretty sounding. Okay, so those are the unbent vibrato. And I talk about all this in the course that you can get at jeffmcerlain.com. Or TrueFire, of course. So I see some questions coming. I'll get to these after this stuff, and then we'll talk. I'll answer some of these questions, I promise. I appreciate, so please, more questions. Okay, so now here's the where it gets more difficult. Not if that wasn't difficult enough. It's the bend and the vibrato. And that's super tricky because you want to maintain the pitch of the note and then, obviously stay in tune like we were talking about. So here's your bent note, right? Here's my note. I'm going to bend to this from here. When I bend up to the note and vibrato, here's my bent, the pitch that I'm bending to. And when I vibrato it, I bring up to the strings like this, right? So I'm going to go up to the pitch, not above it. I'm going to reach the pitch. So here's my D to E bend again from the 4 to the 5 of the pentatonic tune. Right, so just release that. Okay, so now the question sometimes I get is, do I bend up or do I bend downwards? And the answer to that is yes. I'll bend up and I will bend down, depending on what string it is, really. I mean, if I'm playing my second string, bending downwards. I'm running really close to the second, to the edge of the neck, so I won't do that. I'll bend upwards. My high string, of course, right? But sometimes with the first finger vibrato, I'll bend downwards on the second string. So it's not always logical. It's not always like, well, if I'm on the wound strings, I bend towards the floor and I bend towards the ceiling on the unwound. It's also where I'm going to and where I'm coming from. So if I'm going to do a bend like this, there's a lick to practice, right? Just that. Bend, pitch. All right, so there I'm bending upwards towards the ceiling because it doesn't make any sense for me to bend that string downwards because I'm going to go... It's too much because I'm just going to crowd up my finger there, and that's not logical. Where I would bend down... Sometimes I'll bend downwards and I'm going to be on the same string. So it's kind of a 50-50 thing, but you do want to practice it in both directions. So as I'm talking about... so the bends and the vibrato, you know you're doing a good job when you practice it and your fingertips hurt because that means you're putting in some work. So, bend and pitch. Okay, let's take some different notes right now. Let's do, say, C to D. Right, so that's the note I'm hearing. And I can really dig in. Big vibrato. That. And it's cool because you're training your ear as well. So if I'm going to play the note first and then bend to it, I'm actually listening as I go along. So I have it's ear training and hand training, physical strength. There's a lot of muscle memory involved in this too. Because if I'm going for a bend, I'm not thinking about I'm going to bend up a whole step. I just know that's what I want. And it's like riding a bike or anything. You just get used to it, but you have to practice it or else you're not going to have it under your fingers. Oh yeah, okay. How about bending on the low E, A, and D strings? Okay, thanks. I would pronounce your name, but it's in Russian. So, okay. Thank you. Good question. Those I usually pull down because I want to get all that hand strength, and I definitely reinforce those with other fingers. Except for the first finger. And I listen to, like Jeff Beck's version of Pork Pie Hat. Big Michael Schenker fan growing up. And those low bends are really, really, really cool. So same thing. They just require a little more hand strength. And I think they're often overlooked. I love that sound of them in A. The old Jimmy Paging. On Heartbreaker, right? No, it's Black Dog, sorry. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Like A, and then my second finger on the low G, do an upstroke, and I just bend the low G up to A. So that's a really cool thing to practice too. Right, so and you got a point because that makes it cooler. All right, so those are whole step bends we've done. The next one, well, if we just talk about a pentatonic scale, the other bend we can get in a pentatonic scale is a minor third, and it's 1 1/2 step. So we stick to A minor for a minute. A minor pentatonic is A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C. So between A and C is a minor third, it's 1 1/2 steps. Between the C and the D is a whole, D to E is a whole, D to G is another minor third. So if I have that minor third, so I'm going to bend the E up to the G. First I heard that, or was really aware of it, as a player, from Gilmore, who does that, that whole thing, then hold there, he does it there, and then it was that right? So Gilmour is doing that kind of bend in the minor third in the G minor pentatonic, G minor pentatonic scale. So it's more hand strength, and it's really cool. And Page does that one a lot too. I got that from him. You know. All those kind of sounds. Plenty of other stuff by them. Clapton, for sure. You know. Hey, does that hold? Got lost my key there for a second. And I'm out of tune again. Cheap guitars. All right. So the minor third, the other one in the pentatonic scale, that one was the it's the E to the G. So it's a 5 to the flat 7. The other one is the root to the flat 3. So I'm in A minor. All right, so A to C. That's a cool sense. You really want to work on those. And they add a really nice dimension to your playing. Same thing with the vibrato then. You want to work on vibrato. That's really going to get your hands going. Like I got that one. Billy Gibbons too. Like something like that. And that lick is in my Billy Gibbons course because it's so cool. All right, and then one more is the half-step bend, which is not in a pentatonic scale, but is in a major scale or a minor scale. So if we're thinking A minor or A Dorian, because it's a little more useful, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. So I'm going to bend the F sharp to the G, which I love that sound. Check it out. So it's a 6 to a flat 7. Killer. Right? Now the flat 7. No one's going to do it again. Sorry. So now, the other one in the minor pentatonic scale, which doesn't quite work on the A7 chord, is the B to the C. But it works great on the 4 chord. Sorry. Let me get that tuner back on. Kind of new strings. I thought they were beaten in already. I'm doing a lot of bending. There it is. Okay, so in my D7 chord, I can use that flat, 2 to the 3, flat 3. And that flat, that 3 again, sorry, 2 to 3. This becomes a flat 7 to your 4 chord. So then the final thing, and I don't really talk about this in the course, so it's extra, it's free, giving this one away for free, is the half step below a note. And this is a ton of fun. The coolest one would be your blue note to your flat 5. So your flat 5 to your natural 5, excuse me. That is a cool one. We're going to do it as a bend, so check it out. So that's cool. step below each note. Watch. And like for instance, the A is generally a G sharp, unless you're on your E chord, is not a great note. But check it out. If I bend to it, 2, 3, 4. Play half step below every note in the scale. Right, so you can do all these cool things like that. Sorry, mess up. So you can have a lot of fun just messing around and getting that control over your hand. All right, so that's where it can go, but it first starts off with the whole step vibrato, the whole step bend, excuse me, and then working on the vibrato, and just getting control over your hands. The course, the TrueFire course, the blues bends, I tier it, right? So it starts off with simple whole step bends over blues, and then by the end, nothing's too crazy hard, but we mix everything that I talked about, half step, whole step, and minor third bends. I don't really talk about the actually, I do a flat 5 to a natural 5 bend in the course too, which is a really great way to introduce yourself to doing a half step bend that can be seen as outside of the key, because a flat 5 is technically outside of the key, but somebody will probably correct me and tell me it's in a blues scale, which it is. But all right, so the first, some questions. Okay, what strings? These are just 10 through 52 D'Addario. It's been 10 through, what am I using? Not 10 through 52. Yeah, 10 through 40. Whatever it is. I don't even know. A regular XL10 set. You know, that's the one I've been using forever. Yeah, that's it. Just the 10s. I use them on both Fender styles and Gibsons. I just feel more comfortable. I don't have these, super big hands, so I just stick to 10s because I just find them easy enough. Let's see what else we got going on here. What about the fingernail under the string above? Oh, approach. Oh, no, it's a good question. Excellent. Okay, so where does my finger go when I'm vibratoing or bending a note? My finger, I don't usually put the fingernail under the string. I mean, my action isn't low, but it's not super high. I would medium, I guess, would be the word I'm looking for. So I still grab the other string, kind of grab it and catch. If I'm bending a high string, and go for a minor third bend, that's when I'll let the string slide underneath the fingernail a little bit of the string, because I can get that. And then by the string kind of running over the top of my nail, it reduces the tension. But not all the time. If I do that with my pinky, I grab all of them. So there is no 100% surefire way that'll work, or that you have to do it. One more thing, muting. So that's super important. I definitely want to talk about that. I talk about it in the course, of course. Is I'm going to mute the strings that are above me, the notes that I'm vibratoing or bending, with my first finger like this. So this kind of just flattens out. So I can. So as I strum the strings, my higher strings are all muted except for the note that I want on a G string. And on my low string, my thumb comes over the top. So I just have that one note. And then to be doubly sure that I don't mess up is I'll use the heel of my hand to mute the low strings as well. So when I vibrato, I don't have any worries of like this other stuff kind of ringing out. Right, so I'm just resting the bridge, hand on the bridge to mute those lower strings. Thanks for asking. That was a good question. 3:30 a.m. in France. Back from a gig, and here I am. Well, thanks for joining. Okay, Walt, you were talking about inflections. Yeah, well, that's the cool thing about the bends. And the guy that really, there's a few guys that brought into mind for me certainly would be Jeff Beck and Roy Buchanan, Albert King, and Gilmore, right? That to kind of get those notes that by getting control over the bend, it's a great thing. I'm glad you brought that up, Walt. Thanks. Is you can get to your pitch. And the great one is, say, a minor third, and you can bring the note a little bit down. So if I have an A minor chord, right, and I want to bend, let's say, this B to the C, I can bring the pitch down a little bit, right? So here's my note, my flat 3. Right, so, see what I mean? So I'm kind of messing with that pitch, or even like, you know, that's what I got from Gilmore, what I'm thinking of. That whole kind of thing, and, you know, yeah. Yes, that here. So he's not really bringing that note down a whole step. He brings it down kind of a quarter, and you can really get into these great things that you can only really do if you're playing slide, right? So getting that sound. Right, so I can really kind of get that A minor. That's the pitch, but really gets cool and dark, right? You know, and I was saying the only way to get that kind of stuff, you know, when you're with the slide, and I'm going for that kind of sound. Because it's really cool. All right, so killer bends on the Junior. Yeah, it's quite a cool guitar. Yeah, it's 59, a real 59, and it is super cool. Very fortunate to have this thing. Okay. The Albert King bends. All right, well, I'm really pretty terrible at them, but there is a few things I can talk about. And if you go on, I think it's somewhere on Facebook, Jack Pearson, just a great guitar player. He does a little thing on Albert King, and he's playing a V. And sorry, the little thing that just popped up. Totally confused me there for a second. And he's talking about, as somebody just mentioned here, that Albert, it sounded like a total New Yorker there, would tune down minor third or 2 whole steps or something like that and play. So that really helps a lot. People always say he had the guitar strung upside down and he would bend and get those the pitches that way, that control. But really what it seems to be would be partly that, of course, is just the tuning down of the strings, and it makes that bending a lot easier and cooler. I don't say cooler, but you know what I mean. Like, to get that kind of sound, it makes so much sense when you hear Jack Pearson does that video on it, and you hear the quality of the notes, the tone of the notes, and then how he gets those bends. It really, you know, it's really, really pretty cool. Detune your guitar 2 frets. Yeah, I'm not going to do that, but you want to set it up that way. I mean, I got 10s down, 2 whole steps would be super loose and feel not, you got to get used to it, but it's cool. So someone said, Jack Pearson, was he in the Allman Brothers in the 90s? He was, actually, and he quit because they were too loud. That's what he said. He hated having to quit, but the volume of Dickie Betts' amplifier was making him ruining his hearing, so that's why he left that band. But couldn't meet a nicer guy, super nice guy, and super great player. All right, so any more questions? So just, I know people always ask this stuff. Picks, people always want to know those kind of things, right? I just did Dunlop Jazz 3, the Ultex Jazz 3. And it's what I do a lot is I play with the back round side of the pick. I use the point for more of the, if I can do it, right, that kind of faster stuff. And then for the rounded part, I really love the rounded sound of the pick. It kind of warms up the sound. I don't know if you can really quite hear it over the interwebs, but I got that from, well, a bunch of guys. I think the first person I heard talk about it was Pat Metheny using the rounded part of the pick. So I said, let me try it. And then I know Michael Landau does it, and I know Robin Ford does it. And it's a really interesting thing. And I find out afterwards a ton of guitar players I know do it because it just sounds awesome. So it is something to experiment with. And I do move the pick around, play rhythm guitar a lot with the round part, lead with the round part, and then switch the pick to there. So I've got long thumb fingernails, dude. Yes, well, for a particular reason, and only on one hand, because I play Delta blues too, and it really helps. I like the sound when I'm playing acoustic guitar of both pick and fingers, and it's one of those things you gotta keep them just the right length, If they get a little too long, they're too long, and you go back and forth. But yeah, it's and I like the sound you can get. So just for that, like if I'm even on electric. So that's pick and fingernail too. Just ask Jeff Beck about that. Okay, let's see what else you got here. Freddie King style thoughts. I don't know. I mean, I love him. I haven't really. My Freddie King influence, besides knowing the material, kind of comes through the guys who listen to him a bit more than him directly, as much as I love his stuff. Like Clapton, I'm a big fan of. I kind of got my Freddie King through Eric Clapton in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, Freddie King's, one of the kings. Other questions? All right, let's going to talk about what I got going on. So that should be fun. I am finishing up a record. Just finished up a record with Robin Ford, and we're putting this record out together. It's my record. He produced it and he played on it, and co-wrote the tunes. And going on the road with him for some dates in California in September, and in down in Nashville we're going to do some stuff together as well. So I'm looking forward to that. The record hopefully, will be out middle of September. Just getting it mastered now and getting it printed, so that'll be out. As soon as that's out, TrueFire is going to help let everybody know as well, and of course I will talk about it nonstop. And I would appreciate you purchasing a copy because this is how we make our living. And also, if we want to, often questions like, what kind of amps did I use on the recording? It's the two rocks I'm using, and an old Marshall. So, kind of what I always usually use. All right. Where on earth did you get that guitar? A good friend is letting me borrow it for a while. How's that? Because he's a good guy. Two Rock just has one channel. Depends on which one. Yeah, the signature, the class I have two, the classic reverb signature, and I have the Bloomfield drive. The Bloomfield drive has got two channels, and then the Sig has one channel. Time to play something. All right. Play like Grissom. What am I, your dancing monkey? No. David plays like David, not me. What do I think about Joe Bonamassa? I think he is a fantastic guitar player. And I think he has done wonders for the guitar community. So I hear some people talking some stuff about him, and they are idiots because the guy, come on. That guy is selling out everywhere he plays, playing blues rock. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's my thoughts on Joe. And, all right. So, well done. Many thanks from Colorado. Thank you for checking in. Ken Mossman, Iran, all these people I know. Hey. You're off to bed. Good night. How about bending up 4 half steps of the third as a turnaround? Sure, you can do that. Bill, that's your assignment to do that. Okay, one thing I do want to talk about. Do I play acoustic like Tommy Emmanuel? No. Nobody plays acoustic like Tommy Emmanuel. In fact, nobody plays like Tommy Emmanuel. That guy is absolutely one of the most astounding musicians to ever musician. Okay. So, what I was using too, as we said it, is pick and fingers. I was talking about that. Well, I don't know if I was talking about that, but I use my pick and fingers a lot. If you noticed, I was talking about the round part of the pick, and also, I can't look at. I'm looking at comments while I'm talking. I shouldn't do that. I know better. I know better than that. All right, so use my fingers. That's I'm putting my pick between my first finger and my second finger, and you wanted some, David? As I had the pick backwards. So, pick and fingers. Somebody mentioned David Grissom. Yeah, he and Billy Gibbons are some of the guys that I kind of got that idea from. So, and that's one thing for me. That's why I do like. Another reason why I like the smaller pick like this. I just find it's easier to do the pick and finger thing. So a little trick on how to develop that. One thing I like to do is practice just triads like that. So go through triad inversions. So I have C, and then I'm doing pick 1, 2. great way to just kind of get into it, to just kind of work on hybrid picking. Because when I talk about hybrid picking, a lot of people are thinking about, chicken pick and stuff, which I've got like 10 licks that I can fake. But other than that, it's not really it's not my bag, man. So, but using pick and fingers, I can't play without it. It's kind of for years I didn't, and now I can't imagine playing without it. If you want to know more about things like this, there's plenty of ways. I've got tons of TrueFire courses, over 20 at this point, over 10 years. Thank you, TrueFire. You can get those at my website, or TrueFire.com. You can study with me directly in many different ways at my ongoing lessons at TrueFire. You can do one-off lessons at TrueFire, or you can study directly with me via Skype or something like that. All those things you could check out through my website, jeffmcerlain.com. Please follow me on my Instagram and Facebook and my YouTube channel. I would love to have you come over there too. Pretty much any video I do for TrueFire, unlike other than these, like the tone tips, those are there as well, as opposed to other things like that. As you can see from the lovely people at TrueFire and the pop-up window private lessons with Jeff McErlain, that would be me. So before I start to wind it down, any more questions from the people? Thank you for everyone who just bought the course, just bought the Ben's course. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now, I know it sounds kind of TrueFire, people ask me, and I'm just going to be blunt, the best people to work with and work for, and they treat the artists really, really great. So, with other companies, sometimes in the music business and publishing business, it can be difficult. But this is not one of the, I got somebody talking to my son. I'm online. Okay, so this is not one of those situations. And I see I'm not being interrupted here. Okay, so it's live. So got distracted there. So yeah, great people. So a lot of times in the publishing business, people don't get treated as well. So with TrueFire, it's not that way at all. Just the best people in the world. So I'm very happy to be working with them. All right, you already have 10 of my courses. That's awesome. Thank you. You've got about all of them. Thank you very much. And no Jeopardy theme. Nope, not today. How about a bit of word for Jack Pearson at TrueFire? Hey, TrueFire, how about Jack Pearson? I'm sure Jeff Sheets, who I believe is moderating this evening, I'm sure Jack is quite on his radar. Lots of good stuff coming out at TrueFire. I have another course that's coming out in a few weeks, and then I go back in December to film some more. All right, guys, so any other questions before I check out here? Don't forget jeffmcerlain.com, online lessons, and I got my new record coming out. So also if you join my website and send me your email and all that kind of stuff, you'll get starting it on the mailing list. But definitely TrueFire and Facebook. Please do that, jeffmcerlain.com. One last question. Okay, the musical influences to make it. Sorry, reading these. Do I have any lessons on raking and double stops? No. Rake, I just do that. And then double stops. No, not really. Not really. Just figure people's stuff out. Look through TrueFire, but also just, records, man. It's the way to do it. Learn stuff off of records. Figure out how he did it. That's how we all did it. And that's the best way to learn, right? Is just to pick on that record and just keep on doing it until you find it. And go see live music. Definitely do that. All right, guys. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you guys soon.